What is up? How are you all doing? Happy Sunday and blessings to you.
Many blessings to you. Hi, everybody.
What are we going to do today? It's a beautiful Sunday. What are we going to do? Oh my God. We're going to talk about the strengths.
Yes.
We're going to talk about, empaths. It's always about empaths.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about the strengths of an empath. So if they have not heard that empaths are not just, what is the word? They don't just show empathy and softies, but we're strong too. Strong individuals. I mean, I'd like to think so.
I believe we are.
It's true. And if you got a chance to see the flyer, which looked just like this, let's talk empath with your girl Leeonessa and Miss Lizzie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we are on every Sunday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And the topic, of course, it's always going to be about Let's Talk Empath. It's always going to be about empath, but we want to talk about what are the strengths of an empath.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to share with you. What are the strengths of an empath?
So let's get started on that then. So a strength of an empath is that we are very creative people. We have great mindset. That's one.
That is one.
Mm-hmm.
And part of our great mindset is remembering that we have to do our first card spread. We're going to do our first card drop for the day. In general, a general reading for everybody. I'm going to be using the Fairies Oracle cards. Again, Oracle cards are not the same as tarot cards. If you want to know the difference is that tarot cards give a overall insight to
Hi, Bernadette.
Hi, Miss Bernadette. The present position, your most likely outcome, and so forth. And Oracle cards more give you guidance as what you need to do given your situation. They tell you this is your problem and this is what you got to do. And at the end of every reading, a reader can summarize. Whoever's doing your reading can summarize also. Be a sort of oracle themselves. The more sensitive your reader is, the better. And what better way to receive a good reading than from the aid of an empath, where they can pick up more than what is what the card is showing, because there's also a feeling and messages from above that get sent, like, okay, add this, this is go into it. We receive sort of a clear picture that is it's even more clear than what's on the cards. Again, the card will show like a picture of an image of what's going on. It could reflect you, the querent, or it can reflect someone that is involved with you. It could, and that's the artwork. That's what the artwork does. And then the title of the card will, is the title of the card. It'll pretty self-explanatory. Everything else is up to the reader to really dive in and give you more detail. So in general, time span of a month. What is it that everyone needs to know? Now, of course, if you're thinking, well, you did technically a general card reading already, like last week. Again, you get a little bit more insight. As time changes, so do our warnings. So what do we got? In general, making new friends. Making new friends. It looks like this. See?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. So, making new friends. Self-explanatory. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I say something is self-explanatory. It literally says making friends. Now, you could be making friends in, like, let's say your job, or if you at your church, wherever. Making friends also means networking with people. You don't have to be like bestest of friends, but you can network with people, and they can help you along the way. So here we go. Your circle of friends and acquaintances is shifting to a higher frequency. Old friends may part ways, and new people are entering your life. Your changing interests and priorities have made a ripple effect through your entire life. As your thoughts and emotions center on more spiritually natured topics, you are now attracting like minded people into your life. You may find that you aren't as drawn to your old friends, or that you don't share as many common interests. The fairies ask you not to worry about these natural shifts in your life. You aren't rejecting or judging your old friends. You're just making room for growth and acknowledging the universal law of attraction. People who are like minded are naturally drawn to one another. Know that you deserve wonderful friends who inspire, support, understand, and compliment you. The affirmation for this card is: I am grateful for my wonderfully supportive and loving friends, both inside the family and outside the family. Because some people that become your friends, they're you may not be blood related, but you sort of see them as family. So now that leaves space for more people to enter your life. Okay, and it doesn't mean you don't care about the person or persons anymore. It just means that where you're going, it's not in the same direction as them. Nothing wrong with that.
Right. I love
Now we can
that.
proceed.
Yes.
I liked it too.
All right. So I wanted to start because you know how we like to start before we really dive deep into the topic of the day. What is an empath? Because those who haven't seen the episodes before, I highly recommend you watch the episodes prior to this. But if you haven't, um, what is an empath? Well, Dr. Olaf believes an empath feels emotions, energy, and physical symptoms of other people or persons um, in our own bodies, and with that, we're not able to block out those um, things that come to us, those other people's feelings, emotions. We're prone to what is happening around us, and most times there's nothing we can do. We just feel it and become overwhelmed, and usually we have to get out of the situation. So some people may say, "Oh, you're an introvert because you don't like people." Not that we don't like people, but we just it's too overwhelming for some empaths. And when you're an extrovert, you're like, "I love people. I want to be around people." So there's those two types.
And there's also sometimes just the timing. Maybe
Yes.
you could run into someone who happens to be an empath, and
Yes.
it's just you're meeting them at a time where they sort of need to go in a retreat and isolate themselves from a bunch of people, and they need to rejuvenate.
Yes.
So it's all timing.
Bernadette says, "Of course. Thanks for waking me up. LOL."
No problem. We're happy to accommodate. As an empath, you can become a great artist because you can use your abilities to come up with beautiful artwork. The passion and emotion in your mind is a good inspiration for your artworks. Whether
Exactly.
you're an actor, model, or you're a painter, a sculptor, everything that's in your mind, you can sort of just um, bring out, and some people they only draw stick figures, like my girl Lizzie over here. But your stick figures, they resonate with me. They are gorgeous. I love your stick figure drawings. I
Yeah.
really want to make a fantastic album dedicated to your stick figure drawings.
Thank you, because
I've been working on it already.
that's one of the gifts I did not get is drawing. So, you know.
But it is drawing, it's just different. You have to
Oh, it's
understand.
very different. It's very
Uh,
different.
but that's where I started. I mean, most of us started with stick figures in the first place.
I never graduated from stick figure drawing.
That's okay. Empaths can understand the depth of emotional suffering and are great at listening and offering advice.
Yes.
Therapists can work in private practices, clinics, hospitals, rehab facilities, and mental health centers, which you're going to find a lot of people who happen to be empath, especially if they're really good at their jobs. If you notice that your doctor sucks, they're probably not an empath. Just saying.
So, Leonessa, have you noticed that people just kind of swarm to you for advice?
Yes.
That's usually what happens with empaths. People swarm to us.
Yes.
Bernadette says her stick figures go back to the caveman drawings. Thank you, Bernadette. Yes, they do. I think I created.
Exactly. That's hello. If you remember the movie Ice Age, you actually could see some nice, decent stick figures. Come
Ex-
on now.
exactly. Thank you, Bernadette. I like that.
Me too. Me too. Me too. We definitely have so much to share
Yes.
as empaths. Um, Strength wise, I think that our endurance is pretty high when it comes to pain. Our pain tolerance level is pretty high.
Yes.
Um, that would be another reason why an empath will find themselves in some of the toughest challenges in life, whether that is running into a very tough relationship, romantically, or a friendship, um, or even professional, your business atmosphere. It doesn't mean that we are pathetic or that we are weak.
Right.
Everybody has there's pros and cons to no matter what type of personality you have or what type of person you are. Okay. A person who is shut off and is not so much an empath at all, or not in tune, or they're not sensitive at all, they come in handy because they sort of help us, people like us, kind of like they're like the wall we lean upon.
Right.
I've met people like that. I said, well, since like for instance, let's say that's the type of person that's likely to say, I can't see a spirit in this room. How is it that I can't see it, but you can see it? You just, and so you're becoming drained, but they're not affected. You sort of just lean on them. You're like, okay, since you're not affected, let me lean on you for a minute, absorb a little bit of their strength, and then rejuvenate, and then boom, you're back to square to 100%.
Like
Because
charging a battery. Yeah, they charge your battery.
they recharge their battery. So you have your battery charges. Remember, the negative and the positive.
Exactly.
Opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if we revisit or reiterate or repeat anything that we say, it's because there's so many ways to say it, and there's so many situations that it will take place, and there's so many different perceptions that we can never ever fully cover one topic. Whatever you saw in episode 1, we probably have to circle back to it because there's still more to talk on and speak on for it. But a lot of what I don't want people to forget is that we are strong individuals. We will pick up on the very factor that we're saying, we can pick up on other people's emotions. That's a strength. Because of that, we also get warnings what we need to look out for. Um, but we make the conscious decision whether we want to take a chance on that person or that situation,
Right.
or to fall back, because we really cannot give too much of our energy and time to that situation or to that person or whatever. We have to remember to do what's right for us and pull back, because
Mhm.
otherwise we're gonna completely crash. So we have strengths to pick up, and our senses warn us of people and situations that we need to just watch out for. And that's a strength number one.
Right.
Ding! Point for empaths. And empaths are very rare. So when someone says, if we have somebody like let's say 50 people saying I'm empath because I'm sensitive, it doesn't work like that. That's where we're going to start going into the difference between empath, because last time we went into the difference between empath and narcissist. Now we're going to go into empath and just sensitive people. What's the difference?
Oh, so sensitive people, um, for me, what I believe sensitive people can just tune into certain things. An empath has more of a wide range that they can feed into. They can feel they're more aware of their surroundings. They can feel other people's emotions. Sensitive people only have one or two particular things that they can pick up on. So to me, that's what I feel is the difference. What do you feel is the difference?
I agree with what you said. And also the fact that, like, it's easy to see. I would say
Mhm.
you can tell the difference between, okay, this person's sensitive, wah wah wah, they're crying. A sensitive person can probably, I mean, obviously they can pick up on another person's emotions too. But
Mhm.
what the very difference between a sensitive person and an empath is that an empath has gifts, spiritual, particularly spiritual gifts that they were born with, not something that they had to go to Reiki and become attuned. They were born with it. They have a higher consciousness that they were born with for a reason. A lot of times we are carrying our lifetime lessons into the current lifetime,
Right.
and we can still remain connected to that. And we're also very connected to heaven, which also why we have a very close connection to God. Doesn't mean that we're gods. It doesn't mean that we're people to be worshiped. It just means that when God wants to give somebody a message, we might capture that message for somebody else and deliver it for them before that person can, because if they're not in tune already, they're not sensitive and picking up on those messages from above, then God will use people like us to deliver that message for others who they're not paying attention, they're not, you know, they're not sensitive, or they're not empaths. You have us for a reason. We are meant to be used so that God can give us messages to help other people, and not just to help other people, but we also to help us ourselves. We actually get a lot out of helping other people. That's the thing. Empaths get a lot out of helping other people. It's a
Yes, we
it's
do.
a it's a very beautiful thing. We don't take it for granted that when we see someone do wonderful after we done help them, we don't like, oh, okay, I take all this credit. Oh, look, I'm so powerful. It has nothing to do with that. I believe that you are that just shows how much you are not an empath. If you feel the need to say I deserve all this credit, um, and you're not giving any of that praise to God, because that's the one that you're supposed to praise is God. It's not an empath that you praise; it's God that you praise. So and there's only one God. Period. All the other deities and stuff, they're artistic, they're beautiful, they're cultural. I like looking at them because of the culture, but they're not things to be worshipped. So as long as people don't get confused in the crossfire, because some people do, they're like, oh, well, I'm an empath, and I don't know, but my spirit is just like just feel really connected to Athena and the Greek gods. I'm like, that's beautiful. That's nice that you think the artwork is nice. It's just artwork at the end of the day.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's artwork at the end of the day. I like looking at the artwork too, but don't worship them things. Don't do that.
Well,
I'm sorry, but
yeah.
don't.
Well,
Not a good idea.
as empaths too, we when if we pick up on somebody else's emotions, we can easily go, like, say if someone has a fear of something. We don't know technically what they're, but it we feel all of a sudden that fear, and
Hmm.
sometimes we can help that person without them realizing it overcome a feeling of fear that they really didn't need to have, or a
Right.
situation that could have caused them harm, and prevent that from happening. So that's like a big strength, and I don't think a lot of people still comprehend that the feeling, and I don't even know how to describe the feeling, what it feels like when you feel someone else's emotions, or when you're flooded with people's emotions. If you walk into a crowded room and everybody's like, you never know what type of mood these people are in. They could have just gotten into a fight, and
Hmm.
so they're moody, or more, or you have someone sad in a room, or fear, or anxiety, but it's like it's like everything just sticks to you like a magnet, and then you have to try to wipe it off, and it only seems to smear inside of you the more you try to get it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we seem to also, have more compassion and love for people. We're very good in relationships,
Hmm.
um, but we also need our alone time to re-energize. Even though you're with somebody, you still kind of need to separate to have your time to recharge everything.
There's nothing wrong with that too. I think that when it's important for people to understand that if someone tells you, "Listen, I need my space," give that to them. They're not chopping your leg off. But there are
Mm-hmm.
some people who they get so offended if you say, "Please," if you say, like, let's say you were to say to me, "Hey, Leonessa, I need my space." Okay, that's it. You get in touch with me what you can. People have to remember to give space to people who need to rejuvenate. To insist and push yourself on someone is like, it's very overbearing. And it's very stressful, and it does drain folks. So if any of you out there, you don't understand that, or you take offense if someone says, "Hey, I need my space." If that person has a problem with you, know this: that's their problem, not yours. Back up, focus on you, recenter yourself, and because you have so much more that you have to focus on.
Right.
Your
Right.
world does not revolve around them.
Right.
Other stressful careers. There's stressful careers that empaths would probably avoid if they can. And if they happen to be the type of person, empath, that falls apart easily, then please avoid public relations, politics, executives who manage large teams, and being a trial attorney, because these high intensity professions value extroversion. So if you're not an extrovert, you might not want to dive into those things, especially politics. I mean, come on. That means you got to deal with a lot of people. The ability to engage in small talk and aggressiveness rather than being thoughtful, soft spoken, sensitive, and introspective. That's what those entail. And if you are an empath and you get stressed out super easy, you might not want to dive into those kind of professions. Just saying. There's other things that we can do as empaths that's not so stressful. I mean, it's still, I'm not saying there's no stress. There's stress everywhere you go. There's stress even when you go to the bathroom. But when, yeah, girl. But if you want to have a very good, successful career in something, and you are an empath and you happen to pick up on everybody's emotions, it's a good idea to, and let's say you like to work with people, you like to help others. Well, being a doctor, a nurse, those are very fulfilling things. You will, as this, at the same time as you're giving energy and you're giving, you are also receiving, because as you see someone survive, as you see someone get better, and as long as you're someone who understands that um death is not an ending but a beginning to the next chapter in that spirit's life, because these this body that we're in is borrowed. They're just, our spirits are like butterflies, and these bodies that we're in, we're like cocoons, and someday the butterfly has to grow out of its cocoon and then fly away or flutter away into another consciousness, another reality.
Right.
And then you can work as a therapist, you can work as a counselor, you could work as a writer, because then you have really, really strong ideas.
And
uh,
that's where the creative part comes in
that's
for
where the
empaths.
creative yeah, that's where the creative part comes in. um and then you also want to avoid negative news. So like, if you probably are somebody who doesn't even like to put on the news and watch the news, because there's
No.
always something negative.
Yep.
It doesn't mean not know what's going on in the world, but you might want to not engage too much in it. Intense entertainment, it could be stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an entertainer. But since I was little, what I got out of being an entertainer is looking at people smile, the reaction that they get
Right.
from when I'm entertaining them. It could be very fulfilling, and so other times it could just be only stressful, because then
Mm.
some crowds give you nothing. They give you no energy to thrive off of, and then
Right.
you're left having to produce your own. And that you want to avoid sarcasm. As an empath, we don't really care for too much sarcasm. It little bit is okay. It's not like, as an empath, we don't have a sense of humor. But too much sarcasm, like excessive sarcasm, it is draining. It is draining. It is
Mm-hmm.
very draining. Chronic complainers, people who complain about everything and see the negative side in everything. There's not a shred of a rainbow at the end of the lane. Large groups of people for extended amounts of time.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in a large group of people, but not for too long. Like, I again remember I was talking to you before about auditioning for like things like American Idol, and I stood in line forever, and also The Voice. I stood in line forever, and also America's Got Talent, and I was picking up on everybody. I had to literally put a block up, and sometimes it could be really hard. Highly critical people, you want to highly critical people. And then, so if I'm auditioning, I got to deal with critics. So sometimes because I'm picking up on more than their words, and I know that you know what I'm talking about, because as an actress, you're picking up on more than what the person is saying to you. They're criticizing how you're acting, like your acting skills or whatever. You are actually picking up more than what they're saying. Like, you're literally picking up on what they're feeling, and they could probably try to put up a front, but you're like, dude, I feel what you really want to say. You may not be saying it, but I feel it.
Well, sometimes I have actually said what they were thinking, and it just kind of cleared the air. Oh, Bernadette says, "Oh, no sarcasm."
Oh yes, some people as actors, there's some actors that are overly sarcastic, and sometimes it's not just an act. Sometimes that's their throughout their daily lives. Well, that could be very draining. The overly excessive, and some people think that we're crybabies for calling it out and for saying it's like, but in general, even if a person's not an empath, that would get on anybody's nerves, and that would drain anybody. Sarcasm comes from a place it actually, believe it or not, I find that a lot of sarcasm comes from a place of negativity. Because how could you be sarcastic if you don't know how to make light of something? And we did touch on the dark empaths and we touched on the light empaths. And we
Right.
did touch on the difference between the two. The dark empath will tend to be sarcastic, and that's a place of negativity.
Right.
Doesn't mean not have a sense of humor. It's just that it's a place of negativity.
Well, let's clear this up a little bit too. Remember, not all people that are sarcastic or did have sarcasm are dark empaths. So if you watch the last episode, then you'll
Yes,
understand.
yes. Everybody watch the last episode. We break it down. We, as empaths can have a sense of humor, of course. We do. Lizzie does. I do. And you do not have to be labeled or considered a dark empath. It's just the fact that dark empath would be what's a really good, if I was to put a description, if I was to pick a drawing, I would have to say an emo type person who, as a dark empath, who's very sarcastic throughout their day and never
They
stops.
talk about, not only that, but they find humor in other people's pain and
Yes, that
misery
part. Highlight that.
constantly,
Yeah, constantly.
constantly.
Highlight that part. Highlight that, everybody. That's again what makes it different. And we did have someone once try to claim themselves a dark empath on our show. I do not advise anybody do that again. First of all, it makes you look ridiculous. And second of all, Lizzie and I do not have time for people who are just seeking for attention um, for the dumbest reasons. It took a lot for us to even put this platform together. And so, people who come to actually seriously learn about empaths, we welcome you. We welcome you to learn. We welcome you to listen. We welcome you to understand, because we are highly misunderstood individuals.
Correct. Bernadette says, no, just funny from me. You are funny, Bernadette. You are very funny.
I think, and yes, she is. And for an empath, the strengths of an empath would be when they're being themselves. You don't have to put on a persona for the world.
Right.
That is something to, if you want to be successful, trust your intuition. Listen to what your gut tells you. I've
Ex-
been listening to a lot of what my spirit's been telling me.
mhm.
Express empathy for others. Express sympathy and empathy for others.
Right.
Sympathy is not the same as empathy, so people can go and look that up, what the difference is. There's just like there's a difference between light and dark, there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. They do not look the same. They're not the same definition, but they are close in relation. They're like sisters. Love is all there is within yourself. Loving yourself is very important for empaths to be in order to be successful. If you want to be a successful person, love yourself first. That way, when you comes to fit someone else into your life, you can love them wholeheartedly because you've learned to love yourself. And I granted it's hard sometimes. We have picked up on so much negativity in our lives and have been beaten down brutally, whether physically, mentally, or spiritually, however you want to cut the cake. And so that leaves, a person who happens to be an empath having to refine themselves, having to relearn how to love themselves.
Yes.
It's it's um it's to claim oneself as an empath is actually a very brave thing, because we get called out for being blasphemous. We get called out of a lot of things.
And
Um,
most empaths, you know, they're hardly known, although scientists do believe there's 1 to 2%. People that are empaths, I personally believe there are more. They just won't come out and say that they are one because they don't want the ridicule and everything behind it. which is understandable because I have dealt with people in my life, in my family, I can say, that, have ridiculed me for coming out, oh, that it's blasphemous, yada, yada. But you can't
You
help
can't
what
help what.
God gives you.
Right. It's just natural. That's the point. It's this,
Mm,
we didn't go looking to be called empaths. We just were born a certain way. And the reason why I say this, we were born very sensitive and seeing things, hearing things that are from the other side, that are spirits. Some people call them ghosts. There is a difference between the two. There tends to be there's entities, there's dark entities, light entities. Um, and, but of course, when I speak in the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit, same thing. It's complicated. We'll dive into that another time. But what I'm saying is that it is, we were just born highly sensitive.
mm-hmm,
And so we didn't go trying to find a name. We just got guided there because of the fact that, like, some people were saying, okay, you think differently, or you're this or you're that. And then we had to self reflect a lot. We had to, like, at least learn more about ourselves and say, why do I pick up on things more than the people in my classroom? Like, and I'm not talking about like on the answers on a test, but why do I feel everybody's emotions? Like, why can I tell that that person's in a pissed off mood and they haven't even said anything yet? So,
and it doesn't have to be facial cues.
yeah, no, not no facial cues or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about it after this quick commercial break. Just because there's so much more to talk about. Lizzie and I love sharing this information with you all and the interest more about that.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello,
Welcome back.
hello. We're back. We're
We
ready.
are. We are.
We're always ready.
Well, I have a surprise, Leeonessa, that I thought I'd share. This would be a good time to share it.
Okie dokie.
All right. So, probably sometime this week, I will do a live general reading on facebook.com/Let's Talk Empath.
I love it. I love it. All right. All right. Very good.
So, I
Very
may
good.
use my oracle cards or my regular tarot deck. So, if you want, I can try to do it once a week.
I
We'll
think that
keep
would
it
be a good
interesting.
idea.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea.
I can't tell you if you're going to win millions of dollars, though, because if that was the case, I'd be helping myself out. So,
I know. That's what and then again, everybody like, oh well, why can't you win the lottery if you can pick up on the numbers? Maybe you could pick up on the numbers. Here's the thing about that. It's got to do with personal gain. It's got to do with selfishness. Oh, but it's for a good cause. What if it's for like a charity? It don't matter. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I could probably give you guidance and say, listen, go shoot your shot for the lottery, because the simple fact that they might end up running into somebody who they need to meet,
right.
which is more rewarding than what they think they're gonna gain, which is, oh, I think I'm gonna win $1 million because of the lottery.
Right. Now, I have recently done a couple of days. Excuse me, y'all. I have a little cold. So, but a couple days ago, I had someone ask me to do a card reading. I did it, but it was a general reading. They wanted like money. Am I getting a house? When's my boyfriend coming? Where's my soulmate? Lots of people have different gifts. I don't tend to have all those gifts to get that. Now, if I do, great. But that doesn't usually happen. And no, I cannot connect with your Uncle Tom or Aunt Susie unless they just happen to come, because I'm highly sensitive that way too, where I can see things most people cannot. But I can't like relay messages like Aunt Uncle Tom sitting beside me giving me messages to give to you. It happens once in a great while, but not all the time. Just saying.
Correct. Sometimes, and that really has to do with meditation. Meditating so that you can elevate your levels of sensitivity in a new direction. In Reiki, they really do. It helped me with prayer. I
Mm-hmm.
used to have a certain idea of how I was supposed to pray. And the funny thing about that is that I did it more as a routine when I would pray. And then when I discovered Reiki and how it really could help me spiritually and
Mm-hmm.
medically, I was getting better. I was in a very, 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 very drained place at one point. And but once I started practicing Reiki, which was years ago, I got better. And then I got better at my breathing. I realized that I had spent so much time, tight and tense. And so my breathing wasn't up to par. And I had to use my pro air so much. Now I use it a heck of a lot less, to the point where I almost don't even need it at all. I was on so many medications at one point that my cupboard started to look like a pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
And close friends of mine saw my health going downhill. Once I started practicing Reiki, and the thing is, my spirit was telling me to practice this.
Mm-hmm.
I was drawn to it for years, but I didn't know why, and I didn't know where to start. When I started, I read up about it. I took the courses, and I found myself becoming Reiki level 1 Shoden, and then I proceeded to Okuden level 2 until finally I made it to a Reiki master. And once I did that, I found that each and why each level was important. When I went back to church and I said, you know what, let me try something. I'm curious. I got better at meditation. I got better at praying. I've always done the rosary, and then I've always had this strong connection after doing the rosary. It's like a very strong prayer,
Mm-hmm.
and it's healed me. It's helped me, and but this time, it made it stronger, even stronger than before. So Reiki helped me meditate better. It helped me with my breathing. It helped me with all the physical ailments and the mental ailments I've been suffering for years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and still having major depressive disorder, it's kind of like a certain time of the year I have like that seasonal depression. It comes and kicks my butt. But because I am armed with these new tools that Reiki gave me, I feel like I can face it better, which is important. I mean, it's good to be able to say that a person can do that. And I'm not saying that everyone has to practice Reiki, but you're not going to lose anything. You're going to gain.
Right.
Um, there's nothing wrong with looking into it. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with practicing it. If you find that, and here's the thing, I can't think of anybody that's actually taken the initiative to practice Reiki that came out saying it didn't help them or it didn't benefit them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they would have to be an immensely, again, sarcastic black wall that really you can't move. If you're gonna do anything like that, just like if you're gonna go to church, why are you gonna be a black wall?
Right.
What are you what are you doing it for? What are you gaining? What are you And so again, that's the strength that an empath has. We naturally know what we're walking into. We naturally have that connection, that spiritual connection that other people have to go and find. We don't
Right.
have to find it. We already have it.
Right.
Plus I
You, you know what I love about being around empaths too? It's almost like the way I describe it to people is like you and I and a couple other people that I know that are empaths. It's like we can collect all of our energy and put it in, I call it like the center of the room or whatever, and when we need to pull from it, it's always like we're always giving each other energy to keep it moving.
Yeah,
So empaths can keep each other going and not just drain the other person. We just
correct.
keep the energy alive and moving amongst us.
And there's some empaths that their specific gift is being an energy giver
Mm-hmm.
and knowing where to put, and then they sort of never run out of that energy. They kind of just keep going. Those are rare to find. Again, there's every empath has a particular gift, particular strength, and certain weaknesses that they have to work on. Acknowledging the weaknesses, you don't just acknowledge them and then leave them there. You work on them so that you can turn a weakness into your strength.
Exactly.
What and Empaths are the opposite of narcissists, and we cannot emphasize that enough. While people with narcissistic personality disorder have no empathy and thrive on the need of admiration, empaths are highly sensitive and in tune with other people's emotions, can take them in. We can turn their negative into a positive, just like we can turn our weaknesses into strengths.
Exactly.
That's a good thing. But some people need to work on it. Some people need practice. They need help, and it's okay. And again, empaths are not perfect. They got to work on their gifts. They have to work on harnessing strength to proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they go in complete meltdown and shut down, and then they have to completely be in a cave. And to other people, it may look depressing, but for us, it is peace. It is, you probably want dark, was it curtains and complete darkness for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, it is, we are so recharging our batteries. And there's a time to step outside our environment. Like, let's say you're in the city. If you're an empath, the city might be a very stressful place to live. Living in an environment where there's more nature, you get recharged better. I remember once upon a time, I thought I was going to find myself in more of the city, but I prefer to visit the city rather than live in the city. But that's just me. Again, empaths are different.
Right.
There might be an empath that finds a lot of their strengths in the city, and they have their reasons.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm enjoying more of that nature. I'm enjoying a pond, a river, a lake. I'm enjoying the birds. I'm enjoying the fish.
Well, the flowing of the water helps recharge energy, and just
Hmm.
nature itself. You become grounded within the energy, and you feed the earth, and the earth feeds you back.
Exactly. 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 And
Yes.
that is a beautiful thing. And also, I think one of the next topics that we're going to bring up about an empath are the kinds of foods that we enjoy eating, that we need to eat, that we stay away from, and so forth. So next week
Bernadette loves
it's gonna be
nature.
about food.
Yay!
Food! Food, 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 food.
Nice. I can't wait to share with you guys about the food. That's gonna be fun.
Oh yes. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
What we need more of, what we need less of, what we can't stay away from. There's pros and cons. I told you. I emphasized this to you. I
Is
wasn't
it?
exaggerating nothing.
No, not at all.
Ah, always got to have fun.
We do. We do. It's exciting. And I love hanging out with you, Leonessa.
Me too.
You make my day better
Well,
every time
you know why? Because we are more successful when we're together. Two empaths can be in a successful relationship together. You and I have a wonderful friendship.
We do. We do.
Fantastic. I love it. I prayed for you. I remember I mentioned this. I said, God, I want someone like Lizzie. God give
Which
me
is
Lizzie.
funny because we are so in tune sometimes. We wear the same colors or we think of the same things, and or she'll think of something before she leaves to come visit me, and then I give her what she was thinking about. So it's,
Yes,
and without even talking, it's like, how
without
did
saying
you
a
know?
word.
Right. How did you know? It's just a thing. That's what we do. We've done it so many times.
Yes. Oh, Miss Berna says you two make my day too.
Will you make my day, Bernadette? And I love you bunches. You want a
You.
cookie?
Oh my God! Pull that cookie thing again. I'm telling you, I love what she says. You want a cookie? Oh
Cookie?
man, I love you. I love you so much. I got a
Mm-hmm.
question.
Yes.
Um, when it comes to the strengths of an empath, do you find that there's some things that an empath needs to watch out for? Otherwise, that'll affect that strength. Now there's different strengths. So let's talk about mental strength. If as an empath,
Yes.
should an empath, because I mean we did cover like, staying away from what to avoid, but if the empath is very strong, let's say they are very good at blocking out people's negativity. Let's
Right.
say they have their wall up and they have a good shield. They've learned how to build that shield up. What do they need to watch out for mentally so it doesn't affect them mentally, and then that shield doesn't get fall down?
I think they have to recharge a lot more, because if they're around people that are constantly negative, that shield will break. That foundation will crack. So I think
Eventually.
they need eventually, yes. So they need to be around more positive nature and recharge.
Is it possible that other empaths can drain other empaths?
That is possible. And sometimes it's just accidental. They don't mean to. Um, but I've learned, because I've been around it since I was little, I've learned to always sort of block a certain amount of my energy. Like I save some in reserve for me, but I don't
Hmm.
mind giving some out. But then it's like I have that little, some left for me, and I can block everything else out. And then sometimes I'm just outright, you got to slow your roll for a minute, because you're like sucking so much energy from me. Give and receive, give and receive, reciprocate.
For empaths who do not practice, um like, putting up their shield,
Yes.
and they happen to be around another empath, like for instance, let me give a better, like, draw up a scenario.
Okay.
My mother is a very, very gifted woman. She's an empath,
Yes.
and the thing is that I think throughout my life I had the tendency of draining her, and I never knew why. I could just be sitting in a room and I can have a difference of opinion, but it's like if I have a difference of opinion, it's like that affected her a lot. So what should, and it doesn't matter, again, people, it doesn't matter, you could be an older person and still not know how to put your wall up. What can any, in general, empath that could be unintentionally causing another empath to be drained, what could they do besides back off and just go somewhere else? Because what if you live together and there's not very many places to go?
Well, I think in the beginning it would be best to, before you one starts wanting to communicate with another empath that's more highly sensitive than you may be, or whoever may be, start pushing out positive energy before you speak, so it's already out there, so once you do speak, they have something to feed off of, so it's not an instant drain of the battery.
And
Like,
sometimes it doesn't matter. You could be very optimistic, perky, but then
right.
that empath probably is going through a lot of things
Yes,
that,
that could be a situation too.
where it don't matter how hard you try, it's probably just best to just go to your room, go for a walk, and
Mhm.
keep yourself away.
Mhm.
They'll find their way.
They will.
Luckily, we've gotten better over the years as far as like drainage wise. Like I hear less and less from my mother throughout the years that I drain her. I've heard more that she calls me like her best friend, and that that she can talk to me about a great many things. And of course there's times where, you know, that's taken back, and then I hear that a conversation doesn't even exist with me. But it fluctuates. Again, nobody's perfect. It fluctuates. So in general, let's say you have a parent who's an empath and you're the child who is the empath, and you just can't see eye to eye a lot of times. Again, don't be discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
I should know because I've lived that life. It's going to be okay. You just have to continue each day like you were going to do, to go about your business and try not let it defeat you, because I mean, at a certain age and being an empath, you might cry because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm upsetting my mother or my father so much and I'm barely doing anything, or it could get to you. Try not to let it. That's why I say the word try, because it could be tough not to let it get to you.
Right.
Because again, as an empath, you care about how that person's feeling.
Right.
You could be picking up on how that person's feeling, not understand why they're feeling it sometimes, because you may be picking up on it, but you're like, why do you feel that way? What is the matter with you? Because there are plenty of empaths that are very, very optimistic, very perky, and they see a lot of light, beautiful, beautiful butterflies and things. And then you have some empaths that are just always moody and always so down, and everything's bleak and everything's again, that could be draining. Too much negativity, no good
Yes.
for anybody.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
What strengths have you gained being throughout your life that maybe you did not have before, that maybe now you have now as an empath?
Well, um, I have, since I'm not just an empath, I'm sensitive to spiritual things around me that people can't see. Um, I through the years I have learned to be able to actually touch different things, like walk by a wall and touch it, and I can actually feel emotions of other people that lived before I was into the residence or location. So, um, I've become more in tune with nature, as an empath, um, which is exciting for me because I have flocks of birds now that come, and I'm like, yay, my
Oh,
birds! I call them
oh,
my birds.
oh my God. So do you have let's see. Well, I guess I'll answer that question too. Um well, I sort of touched on it a little bit, just a little bit. Throughout the
Right.
years, part of it was Reiki. Coming across Reiki, it definitely helped me pray better when I go into church and I'm doing the sign of the cross. Now it's not just a routine. Now it's not just, okay, this is just what I'm supposed to do at this time, when, I have to kneel, and, everybody has to kneel, and then we have to hold hands. Now it's not just routine. It really, I could truly get more out of it than I got before. I
Right.
can get more out of when the priest is talking. I can get so that's a strength, because then it's helping me. It's not some, and I never forget it.
Mhm.
Um I I was, oh, because before I picked up more on people's emotions in the room of the church, and there was a lot of negativity. There was a lot of judgment.
Mhm.
Even though we're there and we're supposed to be connecting, there were a lot of people not doing it. There were a lot of people that were just there, a high percent that are just there because of routine, and not enough people there that are really, really willing to become the church.
I've heard that from a lot of people. It's just they grew up that way. You go to church every Sunday, so it's just a routine. As they got to be an adult, it's routine. We did it
You
as a
go to
kid.
confession,
Right. We just
but you're not getting anything out of it. And so I didn't get enough out
right.
of it once upon a time. I learned the religion, I learned the messages, I learned what we had to do, I spread the word, I sang in the choir. Um I I was very good at spreading, the word of God and spreading Jesus Christ message. Still am, because I've helped a lot of people who
Mhm.
were lost and confused find their way, those of the willing. I'm going to say that because anything representing something so beautiful, I don't think it should be forced. It's kind of like, I'm not trying. That's like anything forced is kind of like, it's like someone taking advantage of you. It's like a rape. And I don't partake in anything like that. So, and I don't use fear tactics on people. And at the same time, here's the thing. It's not called a fear tactic if you are warning someone. And it's kind of like when you do a card reading, you're not using a fear tactic, warning someone what they need to be doing differently. It's the same thing in that respect.
Mhm.
What another strength that I've learned is, that how how strengthening my connection with prayer, how it helped again with my medical, my mental, my spiritual, and my living, my lifestyle. It really freaking helped. And now when I go to help other people, I have this, I can feel, should I be helping this person or should I just let them find out on their own? And a lot of times the answer is let them find out on their own.
Mhm.
Um, I have another question before we say ciao to our audience.
And I have to do the last card of the
And don't forget, don't yeah, of course, we need to never forget that part. But another question to you is,
yes.
what strengths have you gained over the years that have helped you physically as an empath?
Um
We did mental, now we're doing physical.
yes. Yes. Uh, wow. I think just I'm more of the introverted type. So my time alone actually helps me physically somehow because I can energize. I'm just more comfortable that way unless I know a group of people, but physically it helps me internally heal myself if I can get out of my own head, out of the noise and just do what I'm going to do, be at peace. Even if it's actually listening to music, writing, doing something that I like physically because it's helping me mentally. So,
Right.
yeah.
Good. And how has it helped? How over the years have you gained strength spiritually?
Um spiritually because like I said it that one's kind of complex because I do see spirits. So, it's given me the strength I believe to help me better help spirits. It's helped me become closer to God because for a while I wouldn't say resentment towards God, but being as short as I am, sometimes I hate being short. And I'm sure people will say, well, I hate being tall, but there's things that tall people can do that I can't do. So, um, I
And then
think
there's
it's
things that you could do that they can't.
that's true. It's true.
Listen, you hit an easy split.
Exactly. So I've learned to spiritually. I've had to grow that way. Learn to accept who I am spiritually, and help those beyond that are no longer physically here.
What advice could you give other empaths that haven't started strengthening their mental, their physical, or spiritual?
I think you have to start somewhere, and baby steps is okay. We're not saying dive 6 foot into the deep end of the pool and just say swim for your life. No, I think baby steps are great. If you're the type that loves meditation, start 5 minutes. Me, meditation works for some people it does not. So it just it depends on the things that you've gone through your life. Can you accept the silence and being alone for a certain amount of time? 20 minutes? Probably a lot of people cannot. 2 minutes, do it in 2 minutes. Or listen to music. Do something out of your normal routine. Step outside, take a walk, look at nature. You just take, you see a flower, go up to it and smell it. But do something different to get your to become part of nature or part of something
Right.
and that you're not used to doing, but
And
do
never
baby
stop.
steps.
Never
Right.
stop. Never stop learning more about yourself as an empath, and never stop learning, because we continuously learn throughout our lives. Whether you're an empath or not, you're going to keep
Right.
learning.
Right.
Never stop learning. Shout out to everybody who is in tune, and shout out to people who really want to learn how to strengthen themselves spiritually, mentally, and physically, and how they can turn their weaknesses into strengths. And never stop learning. If something doesn't work, again, like what you said, do something outside your normal routine. If something happens to not work for you, find out why, because not only will you learn why it doesn't work for you further and deeper, but you will still be able to take something from it. And then when someone has that same issue or that same question, you'll be able to further in depth explain why that won't work for them. You'll,
Right.
like, for instance, you'll be able to explain to another empath if they say, well, meditation is not working for me. You'll be able to explain in scientific detail why it's not working for them. It could be because again, since empaths take on so much, they're not emptying out their mind. They're not, because if you remember Bruce Lee, he says, clear
Right.
your mind, empty it. And so they probably have a hard time doing that. And so you could be able to go into depth as to why meditation, or why prayer, or why this, or why that, like, or why swimming's not working for them, or why they, like, let's say they say, I swim so I can try to get some exercise and have my own peace and rejuvenate, because water is, I heard, is supposed to help us empaths, but I'm getting nothing out of it. Maybe they don't like the feeling of being wet. But listen, everybody has to shower, so you're gonna get wet whether you like it or not. And we'll talk about the elements another time, because that's another
Yes.
subject. But next week it's about food.
Yes, food. Food
Food,
is important.
food.
Yes.
Oh, I had fun today. Go ahead and give your card reading. Let's do it.
Okay. So, the card reading for today, it's called The Waiting Game. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen.
I don't know.
It ain't gonna happen. The Waiting Game. So,
I can
there
say
you go. Okay. The Waiting Game. So, you need to stand still where you are. Stop worrying about what your next move is going to be. Stand still and wait. What you think is horrible right now may turn around to be a good blessing. So stand still and be patient. Things will work out for you if you give it a chance. Don't force it, it will come.
very good. I like that. I hope you all enjoyed our readings for today, our general readings. Don't
Bernadette
overthink
says
it.
she's hungry.
I bet.
Food.
I bet. I hope that she took a lot from our readings today. Ms. Bernadette, thank you for joining us. And anybody else who goes back
Thank
and
you.
sees this recording, we hope that you also were able to take a lot from this episode.
Yes. I had fun.
So, yeah, I did. I always have fun. So, but speaking of food, dinner.
Yes.
Dinner time for most of us.
So we'll see you
later
all
on the next episode. Yes.
next week, next Sunday. I'll be here.
5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Let's talk empath.
Empath.
Leeonessa Lizzie.